One lesson I did not learn is bring my ice water with me.
Uh-oh. Well,
That's
we're
all right.
live now.
That's right. I'll live for a
Yeah.
little while.
Yeah.
Hey, our guest today is Matt Hoy. He's a beautiful singer and a busy singer. You guys might know him for his work with UB40, but he's a soul singer from England. He's going to be joining us from across the pond, where it is approximately, is it an even 12-hour difference?
No, I think it's 8 or 9, depending on the time of year. So
Okay.
I think he's eight
Yeah.
8 hours ahead of us.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
I need to check on his status.
While Pete's checking, we'll tell you about his new album, which is his debut solo album. It's called Touch, and it's fantastic. So fantastic, in fact, that he got a shout out this week from the great Anita Baker. So I don't know what a guy's got to do to get a shout out from Anita Baker, but whatever a guy's got to do, he did it. So. But
Yeah, we
love
probably
Matt. He's
should
a great
say
guy.
too, just in case someone listens to the show who might get upset about this, because there is some infighting or some animus in the world of UB40.
Yeah.
But he is UB40 with Ali and Astro, which is every bit as legitimate as regular UB40. They just can't quite get along enough to sit in the same arena or pavilion.
Right.
You know, and it's great. What is it, John? I mean, is it the money? Is it the art? Is it all of it? I was reading today about the, I think it's the Lemon Sisters, because I'm trying to book the Puccini Sisters. They're like a modern throwback to that. And the Lemon Sisters, like, you know, once Roz died, Roz was the one that kept everything chill, you know, the oldest one. The rest of them, they couldn't get along, you know, and they're like,
it's tough.
Yeah, and so you got UB40 that struggles with this too. And I don't want to put Matt on the spot and have to talk about, you know, UB40 stuff. But what is it in general, John, do you think about family and music? I mean, the Van Halens were motherfuckers to work with, you know, because they knew exactly what they wanted.
Yeah. Well, look, man, anytime you take an artistic endeavor and make it a commercial endeavor, you have all the downfalls of that. Because like anybody says, if you want to learn to hate your favorite thing, make it your occupation.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's the fact that your artistic sensibilities are, you know, this whole thing depends on your artistic sensibilities. So you got to stick to them. And when you got a bunch of different personalities sticking to their artistic sensibilities, at some point people are going to disagree. And then the final factor is you put people on the road. If you're on the road, whatever emotions you're going through, whatever thing you're dealing with gets amplified. And that's me anticipating Matt and maybe his comments on why artistic endeavors get so much messier than other potential business ventures. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. Am I on?
Yeah, we're on.
Yes.
Here's a man that does not fear live performances. Hey, will you start us off by saying this is Matt Hoy and you're watching the Break It Down show?
Hey, this is Matt Hoy and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Nice.
So how are we, fellas?
Great. How are you?
I'm okay, you know. I'm doing really well. I'm kind of enjoying just me time. You know, it's quite cool, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see that you're wearing a Dodgers hat. Are you at all following the World Series or the NLCS?
That would be silly. That would be silly. I don't even watch English sport. So, you know, American sport, that's well out the window.
So that hat has nothing to do with current events. It's just a hat that you grabbed today instead of your Yankees hat.
When I was about 8 or 9, a friend of mine had a Toronto Blue Jays baseball cap. And he managed to go to Toronto and get a new one. So he gave me his old one. And ever since then, I've been stuck on baseball caps. And the one I always wanted was a Yankees one because I just love the design. And then I wanted a Dodgers one because George Michael wore a Dodgers one. So I always wanted, but I've just, since buying them in England, I've now progressed to actually getting them when I go on the road in the States and getting real ones. But, you know, yeah, it's just a thing I have baseball hats. You're sporting quite a nice one there, buddy.
Thank you. Yes, it's a friend's company. They do some crazy stuff with virtual reality and augmented reality. So anyhow, Red 6 if you're in the market to
It'll
buy
never be a Dodgers.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a Giants fan, and there's a natural rivalry because the Giants and the Dodgers both came from New York. It was the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants,
That's
so there was
right.
a rivalry from way back. And then they both moved to the West Coast in the 50s.
Yeah.
And so they brought the rivalry here with them. So I'm supposed to hate the Dodgers, but the DJ for the Dodgers is DJ Severe, and he's our dear, dear friend. So I don't hate the Dodgers. I can't hate the Dodgers.
Well,
They
the thing
treat
is,
us
with
great.
the teams in America, they tend to move around and kind of still keep the name from where they're from. Like the Raiders, I think they're moving from LA to Vegas, aren't they?
Yeah. They move more than anybody, by the way.
They can't get comfortable.
Oh,
Yeah,
So-
John's actually got a great. I got to share John every time we get a chance to tell the story. I love it because it's such a great part of social media. So
Wow.
the Dodgers roll out the red carpet for us. They give us free ice cream, press passes, all this stuff.
Lifelong Giants fan, first of all.
Yeah, he loves the Giants. His
Love
wife
them.
is bonkers for them.
Yeah.
And so we go and we ask the Giants. We asked them first, like, let us hang out, let us do you guys up and take care of you. And we couldn't get the time of day from him, which, hey, whatever. God bless. They're busy. But the Dodgers did. And so John said openly that he, like he loves the Giants, but like the Dodgers are his girlfriend or something.
Yeah. They treated us great, Matt. I
They
mean,
did.
rolled out the red carpet. I'm pretty sure that if Vin Scully, Vin Scully is this legendary broadcaster who had been the voice of the Dodgers for longer than any other individual had been employed in baseball.
Right. Okay.
So he's just an absolute living legend. And he gets, they send him a car to bring him to games. If he had to drive his own car to games, I promise you that the parking spot they gave me would have been his parking spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I got out, we parked and walked 15 feet into the gate
No.
of
way.
a stadium that holds 58,000 people.
No
So
way.
that's the kind of red carpet we got from them. And they didn't do that because of my love for the Giants. They weren't doing that to spite the Giants. They just welcomed us that way. So I said so. And the Giants tweeted back that clip from the Godfather, the betrayal clip, the kiss of death.
No
And I was
way.
like, hey man, we're right here.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then after
Didn't
that,
get their
give us the
attention
time of day.
until the betrayal. Yeah, and it's Michael kissing Fredo.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
broke
so-
my heart.
You broke my heart.
See, I thought it was going to be a one-upmanship. Then it could you could lay them on each other, keep going.
Oh,
Yeah.
we would have loved that, of course.
Yeah, it's very
That
cool.
would have been amazing. Hey, I was telling our audience before you jumped on that you just got a shout out this week from Anita Baker.
Oh man, I've had two now. I am absolutely.
Come on.
Just when I first put something on, she tweeted, "Loving, happy," something or other along the line. I was just like, "Oh my god," because Anita Baker is one of my all-time.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There's a thing that they've started in the UK. It's a digital radio station, and they're kind of pulling out a lot of heritage acts from the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, and any act that's associated with a heritage act as well. And obviously, with my association with UB40, they've put Happy in this chart, and it entered at number 24, and it's now at number 5. So I just put this chart on with. I mean, there's some great bands. I mean, some bands in there that I've kind of followed all my life. The Pretenders, the Stones, and Jimmy Page is in there, and there's some serious acts in there. And I just put the list on Twitter and put in Happy and Alive at number 5 or something like that. And then she retweeted the whole thing and congratulations at number 5. And I was like, oh my dear God, this is like a woman. There was like Luther and there was Anita Baker, So yeah, pretty cool, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, iconic voice of Detroit, just, coming out and saying something nice about you, that's terrific. Even, a retweet or any just acknowledgement. She knows you exist.
I know. How cool is that?
That is something
And I
else.
would even say even further, like if she does that, that means she's listening to it.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so, yeah.
Yeah,
I would
I mean,
thought,
it's. And by the way, I have a big smile on my face in part because I started my day off listening to your album, and
Bless
and
you.
Happy and I cannot get If the Cap Fits, I can't get that song out of my head. Why did you pick that song,
morning,
by the way?
Honest to God, Pete, this morning I had 2 messages that I woke up to 2 messages, and one was from a lovely teacher, and I don't know where she's from actually. I need to check it out, but she's a teacher in a school, and I've started my day off the only way I know how, by listening to Matt Hoy and Happy, and she's got the blackboard behind her, which is like a big screen with Happy and my face on it, and showing stills of her dancing in the classroom. And then there's another guy with his daughter, and they're dancing around in the living room to Happy, and this is how we start our day off. And it's just, I'm so overwhelmed by the response that people have taken this song to the hearts. It's just incredible.
That's fantastic.
Why If the Cap Fits? There's so many songs to pick from on the Bob Marley canon. Why that one?
It was kind of a conversation I had with Ali before I recorded, and I was getting a lot of horrible posts from the other UB40 and the fans, which was understandable at the time, I suppose. But Ali had just done a track on one of his albums regarding that whole subject and who the cap fit. We just got talking, and who the cap fit really kind of fit that moment where we were. With my relationship with the old band, and the name calling and blah blah blah, and it fit Ali's story up until that point as well. So we both went, well, should we do the cap fits? And that's how it was. And we went out to the only chance we got to record it was in Hawaii. We were out on the road, and we were in Honolulu, and the promoter managed to arrange a studio for us, and we just went in that day and did about 3 or 4 takes and just nailed it down. And then that what you hear is what we did,
Okay.
See, that got you stopped in your tracks, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, that made me wonder where you recorded it in Hawaii, because I'm a recording nerd. Where did you record it in Hawaii? What was
it? I will always remember his name was Wendell.
Like recording in the tropic?
Wendell Chin.
Wendell Chin.
Okay.
He's kind of a mixed Chinese, Caucasian, I think, but he was a lovely guy. Really lovely guy. Wendell Chin. So you're searching him now, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
I'm actually working on. I'm working on putting up things, and John is letting me sit with my mouth open.
Yeah, I have to find out about these things because, of course, I've been to Hawaii a few times,
Wendell
and I've never been to a
Ching.
Yeah, that's what's coming up. I tried Wendell Chin, and Wendell Ching immediately comes up.
Yeah, great guy, really nice guy. Just set it up, and then we recorded. Me and Ali recorded, and then Winston, who played guitar on the album, we just hung around for the whole day. Then just messing about in the control room, and he did the whole album. He did the guitars for the whole album in Hawaii. It was a really nice set.
Where do you typically record?
The first album we did. There's a guy, if you can see the credits, called Dave. He's the keyboard player, and he does a lot of the strings, and he engineered most of the album. I did most of the vocals and that kind of stuff at his house, actually. And I did some of the stuff at Wes's, the wonderful Wes Mabe, the Wes Mabe. But yeah, anywhere I can, really. There's no specific place. This new album I've started recording with, because James, who was part of the first album as well, we've just gone in together on this for 50-50. So we've just recorded it all in his studio, and it's going to be really good. It's oh my god, I can't wait for people to hear this album.
Well, we like to, of course, we can't wait to hear the album too. We'd like to shout out our studio friends, and Wendell Ching is at Studio One Recording Services in Honolulu. So hit them up if you need to record something in Hawaii. What we were going to talk about Christmas albums. Why? What was the topic of Christmas songs all about?
We've talked in the past about Christmas albums, Matt and I, and then also by the time this show comes out on the podcast side, we'll be square in the middle of November. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
Do you have any favorites, and what's the consensus? Because obviously there's going to be a gap between the US and the UK. What's kind of popular as to over there?
Let's start with this. You're a Pretenders guy. Is that the Christmas song a Christmas song, or is it not?
No, it's definitely a Christmas song. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, that would be on my list as well. That's a really good one.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's just because it's Christmas time is in the song. It's not a song about Christmas. It's just that it happens during Christmas, I guess, right?
Which is very true, and this is what Ali says about Food for Thought, because he mentions Christmas in that as well, and that's not really associated with Christmas.
Interesting. Yeah.
But there's loads. God, I mean, have you heard of Slade out there?
I don't know if I have.
Slade.
The band Slade, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the band Slade. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the biggest, I would say, from the 70s that people playing now. That's the biggest one over here. Noddy Holder.
So you guys don't do all the crooners and stuff like Frank Sinatra and Elvis and all their Christmas songs? That doesn't resonate with you all?
We do, but we tend to, if you go any stores or shops in the UK around Christmas, it's more of the 70s and 80s, I find, that's played.
Huh.
So you've kind of got the Elton John, the Slade, Paul McCartney, Wham,
Yeah.
George Michael, all those kind of, Mike Oldfield. That's always one of my favorites from being a kid. I always remember that one.
Oh.
La Dolce Jubilo or something like that.
I don't know. Dolce Jubilo.
Yeah, there's a
I
whole
know-
bunch of different stuff you guys got.
Yeah, I mean, I think about Irving Berlin.
Well, yeah, that's the classic stuff. I mean, I was brought up on Burl Ives.
Okay, Burl Ives for
Oh,
sure.
wow.
Yeah.
That was the stuff my mum used to play when I was a kid. Burl Ives all the time. I actually thought Burl Ives was Santa Claus when he was singing in the song.
He had
Why
that
not?
going for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you get, because I get really nostalgic for, like I think about these 1940s era Christmases and stuff with these songs that were performed and written back then. Do you guys not get that kind of nostalgia, or were you guys too busy trying not to get whacked by the Germans during that time? And that's not a knock on anybody in Great Britain. I'm just saying you guys had different things on your mind in the 40s,
Not for real. I mean, I wasn't actually there, Pete, but I assume so. But yeah, no, for real. No, we did all the Bing Crosby and the Frank Sinatra and the crooner stuff. Yeah, for real. Which we still do. I thought you were dropping the track there.
No, he's I know he mentions World War II, and then the air raid happens.
Like a drone.
Yeah.
No, for real. No, definitely the old stuff definitely gets played, because I think what it is Michael Bublé kind of rehands all that kind of stuff back into the limelight, after being forgotten for so long. And you get a lot of rehashes. Like, have you heard of Kylie Minogue?
Yeah,
I love Kylie Minogue.
Well, Kylie's done a retake of Eartha Kitt's, Santa Baby. So that it just kind of moves on a generation, doesn't it?
Yeah, Michael Bublé did Santa Baby, by the way.
Mickey Bubbles.
Yeah,
Mickey Bubbles.
I don't know if his version is going to be as good for me as hers will be.
Well, he definitely changed a lot of
that.
lyrics too. He made it less like seductive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Michael Bublé, but when he sings that song, it's a little bit creepy for me, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, seems weird.
Seems
weird.
Yeah.
The whole premise is a little bit weird, though. You got like Madonna singing like she's like, from Brooklyn, Santa Baby.
No, for real, yeah. No, I think anybody singing that song would sound a bit weird, to be fair, but
Yeah.
So what's your favorite then? What's your favorite Christmas
I
song?
love I'll Be Home for Christmas, because they're really not coming home. And as a guy that's deployed a lot, that always kind of resonated with me, like you'd want to be home, but you can't be. And so only in your dreams.
Yeah.
That one for me just hits me in a new way that it didn't used to when I was a kid.
For real,
man. That gives it a whole bunch of meaning.
Yeah.
All my superficial Christmas stuff. I have a different, I think, musical canon for Christmas, because I grew up on the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
So, and there are Black Christmas carols, like probably my favorite Christmas song is off the Jackson 5 record. And now that I'm talking about it, I can't remember which.
Isn't that
There's always This Christmas, Donny Hathaway's This Christmas. My preference is the Whispers version.
Right. Okay.
But shucks, what is
One of the best male vocalists of all time, may I say that, Donny Hathaway.
Yeah, yeah. Nat King Cole. If we're gonna go nostalgic,
talking crooners, that was the Christmas stuff, Nat King Cole stuff. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I like Bing Crosby too, but there was just something about the way that Nat Cole pronounced consonants.
Yeah.
You know, he would just lay into a consonant, man. Like nobody pronounces an M like Nat King Cole.
Yeah, he was never a vowel man. He was proper a consonant.
That's right. Isn't it different as a singer, Matt, having to breathe through consonants? It seems like that was kind of his signature thing. I listened to him and he's like, you know, wow, listen to the way he holds the end of that syllable.
I never really thought about it, John, to be fair.
Okay, but now when you hear a Nat King Cole song, you're going to go, oh, wow, yeah, he really does lean into that end.
He does. He really does. And I kind of know what you're on about automatically. And it's also the thing with Frank Sinatra, because he kind of styled his vocal technique on the sound of a trombone.
Yeah.
So they've all got little traits. And Bing Crosby, you know why he was always smoking a pipe, don't you?
Why?
Because he had weed in it.
All right. Yes, that makes me like Bing Crosby even more.
Yeah, it's always full of weed.
That's hilarious.
Terrific.
You know,
in your vocal stylings, do you attach to an instrument the way Sinatra attached to the trombone?
No, not really. I'm just attached to anything that'll earn me money.
I got to take a minute when we're talking about the trombone and Frank Sinatra era musicians, and just mention that Sammy Nestico is he's still with us, but he's in hospice now, and he is 90 something years old. He's from that era. He played in Tommy Dorsey's band. He's a trombonist, and I like to say he predates the electric guitar, so he composes his music from the trombone. So I understand why Frank, like, if you want to sing great, look at Tommy Dorsey's solos. I mean, it's incredible. So it makes sense for that era to do that. So all of our thoughts and prayers and vibes and everything go towards Sammy as he.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's talking about that era. That's kind of Quincy Jones as well, because Quincy Jones used to compose for Frank Sinatra as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Compose, arrange.
That whole era, you know, Ray Charles and, you know, Quincy and Frank. Oh, just masters, really. And Ella Fitzgerald, there's another one. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. That's
the song that I was hunting around for was Give Love on Christmas Day.
Okay.
That's on the Jackson 5 Christmas. And it was actually written by a bunch of people, including Berry Gordy. So if there was ever a Black Christmas song, it's that. And Someday at Christmas. But yeah, that was my favorite Christmas album growing up. I also love Bells Will Be Ringing as done by John Bon Jovi.
Yes.
And Tim Pierce's guitar solo on that particular thing is what I dial into.
Yeah. Oh God, there's so many. I actually wrote a few down, but I've kind of dropped them all already.
I mean,
the ultimate for me has got to be Last Christmas, George Michael and Wham. That's my
yeah. I knew you'd like that.
They say that's the most popular Christmas song ever now. You know,
is that true? Wow.
Yeah. Maybe after White Christmas. No, White Christmas is always going to be the biggest, isn't it? But I think it's one of the biggest ever now.
Wow. One of the other ones from that Jackson 5 album, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. You know, you got to love how Michael says Santy instead of Santa, you know, because he's a little kid. And
are you sure he's saying Santy?
No.
Oh, there you go. See,
I think he's saying Santa Claus, but I think he's playing like a younger kid, even almost. That's kind of what I've always thought. But what do you think, John?
Sure. I mean, he's a guy who was deprived of his childhood. So if there was any time
the ball
for him
by his dad.
Yeah, if there was any time for him to, you know, experience childhood, it was recording that Christmas album.
You know, for me, when I think of Michael Jackson, I think how his life is like, it's like a two-sided coin. Mm-hmm. How on the one side, everything his life dealt him, in a sense, from being a child up, and it's like what people's dreams are made of, you know, like getting to number one, being on the road with your family, and the success and the financial reward and the fame and everything. But then on the other side, you've got such turmoil with, you know, being alone and, you know, basically being away from your family in that sense, you know what I mean? Because you can't connect with other people and not being able to do anything, go out in the street or, you know, and then later on in his life, the turmoil he had with all the allegations and, you know, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's like the highs and the lows all in one big fail bang, you know.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that's to say nothing of just the musical ability and contribution and, you know, what he was able to cultivate in that wild circumstance.
I mean, the man was a genius. It was, you know, it's just, he has to be the one of, well, I would say the best male R&B singer that's ever lived. And when you listen to his production and his harmonies that he did on the early stuff with Quincy Jones, Off the Wall, and that, the harmonies that he sang on that album, they're sublime, they're ridiculous, you know. Yeah. And it was kind of passed on to Janet Jackson as well. If you listen to some of her backing vocals that she does, they're seamless. You know, you couldn't put a knife in between them. They're so perfect. But yeah, very sad, very sad. I actually watched the documentary on Amazon, and I think it was oh god, what was it called now? I'll remember the name in a minute. But it dealt with all the court case and everything and the allegations over the last just before he died actually, and it's very revealing, very interesting.
Wow.
We definitely
I didn't watch that, but I did watch the documentary that Spike Lee made about the making of Bad, and that was fantastic. Just, you know, from the music production and the creation standpoint. What were you saying, Pete?
Prince asked to play Wesley Snipes' part in the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, he turned it down, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know, when we look at like that documentary about the court case and everything, it's easy to get wrapped up around one aspect that's alleged in Michael Jackson's life. But yeah, lose track of the fact that, you know, he obviously was a genius musically and a genius level entertainer. But also, yeah, I mean, the kid suffered from abuse from day one. You know, and it's like we can't expect him to act like a normal person because he never was a normal person.
And not just one.
We know what abuse does.
You know, it was mental and physical abuse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just from one person, from, you know, numerous people.
Yeah. And did he ever know a friend?
Nowhere to turn.
Yeah. Never had a friend. Not a real friend who didn't care anything. Like, just, I don't care that you do all that shit. I love you for you. He could never, even if he had someone like that, he would never believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for real.
He did actually towards the end. I've heard stories about friendships that he cultivated. One of them was with Akon. And, you know, Akon was in a position to not want anything from Michael. So, you know, he had his own wealth, his own success. So they came at a friendship from level ground relatively. But the interesting thing that Akon talks about is that, you know, Rick Baker, who does, you know, he made Yoda and he made all the movie makeup magic. He's the Michael Jordan of movie makeup. He made disguises for Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson would put on a Rick Baker disguise and look like a 27-year-old white guy. And he and Akon would go to the movies, and that was one of their favorite things to do, would just go to the movies. And here's Akon, and he's Akon, so he gets recognized. And at one point, he said there was a big IMAX theater in LA, and they would go to the IMAX theater and go see a primetime showing of something. And Michael Jackson, looking like, you know, a milk delivery guy or whatever, would go, he would lean into a group of teenagers and go, "Hey, that's Akon." And then they would swarm Akon, and these kids would give Michael Jackson unknowingly a camera and go, "Take a picture of me with Akon." And Akon would just, like, he'd lean into the picture and go, "You son of a bitch. These people have no idea." And cool. He would always say, they would get in the elevator and he'd go, "If you do that one more time, I'm going to tell everybody." And of course he never did. But, you know, I just think that's great that he would go out into the world and that he had the master of makeup make him disguises.
That is cool. That is very cool. God, but can you imagine that kind of life though? I mean, that'd be so, God, you know.
You just can't go anywhere. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're talking about people that he can trust, I think from an early age, you could have kind of not manipulated, but kind of made him trust you in a sense because he was young. But as the older he got, I don't think that would be possible, because there would always be something in his mind saying, what does this person want from me? Is it financial? Right. Is it,
yeah,
are they going to stitch me up? Are they going to sell a story? I don't think it'd be really hard.
It's like Tom Cruise. Does Tom Cruise even know who Tom Cruise is anymore? I mean, it's so hard to, and when you reach that level of influence, it's got to be hard. Like, you've been burned so many times, whether you really have or not, in your mind you have. And yeah, I mean, he might love the hell out of Akon, but I bet there were gates that Akon could never get past with Michael, because,
Yeah,
I'm sure that's true.
I think it's the brand thing as well, isn't it? Once you become that famous, you as a person, he's still called Michael Jackson and that's his name. But Michael Jackson is also with this big brand like McDonald's or Pepsi or Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And it's kind of living up to that, and other people being in control of that brand. And it's really, So.
Yeah. Well, since you put it like that, was there anybody more famous than Michael Jackson? I mean, because really it comes down to Michael Jackson, I think Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali.
And then religious figures.
And the Queen. Everybody knows who that lady is.
Well, Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury. Yeah.
He might be more famous now that he's dead, even.
Well, that's how famous he was. The Beatles are massive.
Yes.
Unless you're Paul McCartney after the Grammys. For those who don't know
able to get into places,
yeah, it's like, this is a VIP event, and he's like, how much more VIP do you got to be?
Some 26-year-old bouncer not letting in Paul McCartney because he doesn't want the old guy to crash the party. Pretty sure I'm going to get fired if I let you in here, old man.
I don't think there is anybody that kind of, when you think about asking anybody in the world who Michael Jackson is, I think most people would know. I don't think there's anybody more famous than that I can think of.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. Hey, how about the fact that we never got a Christmas album out of Prince?
Nah, he's too moody, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, for a guy who sang or talked about God as much as he did, he never gave us a Christmas album.
I mean, the thing is, Prince is one of my favorite all-time artists, and I think
absolutely
a genius. I mean, ridiculous genius. But he never bought into that kind of shit. That he was just he was Prince, and that was it. And that's what makes it cool. He ain't gonna do no Christmas record.
Yeah. I agree that that's one of the things that made him, and he had songs pouring out of him all the time. So the thought of turning the faucet off so you could stop and make a Christmas record, that's kind of absurd. But I don't know about you, Matt, but I think about Prince at Christmas a lot. For some reason, just the Christmas feel, the feel of the season brings up a lot of Prince records for me.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe where you are, but I don't know. No, I'm not feeling that one.
Oh, okay.
When did he die? Was it close to Christmas, or was it? He was
April. April time frame.
Yeah, he died in April, because I immediately thought of Sometimes It Snows in April. But Parade, for instance, is one of the albums that I think about whenever the sky's gray. And for you, the sky's gray a lot more often, so that it doesn't have the same effect.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
But I live in California, and when the sky turns gray, there are certain things that come up for me. And one of them is that album. And, there's just a lot of Prince stuff that I guess I associate with seasons. And one of those seasons happens to be around December.
He's got a really deep vault of songs. I bet he's got 10 Christmas songs in there. The question is, would you want to hear a Christmas album from Prince now? I mean, obviously, like, he's dead, so you want to hear anything he puts out. But would you really want to hear him sing, Santa Claus is coming to town? And would you take it seriously?
No, you see, you've just kind of hit the nail on the head. I think to do something successful at Christmas, it's got to be a little bit cheesy. And there ain't nothing cheesy about Prince.
No.
You know what I mean? So that's
I was going to ask if you thought about a Prince version of a Christmas song, like, for instance, if he decided to do This Christmas, what era of Prince would you want to hear that from? Because he's a guy who has had, I'd say he had probably 5 distinct, and I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but it's somewhere between 5 and 10 distinct eras of Prince where you could nail a sound down.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to hear a Christmas song like this Christmas, I would probably want to hear it from, I don't know, maybe the Diamonds and Pearls era, you
Yeah.
know, the dawn of the new power generation. I mean, we could kind of pick apart that thing if we wanted to talk about hypotheticals.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of where it was the most R&B gospel-y, definitely.
Yeah.
The earlier 90s stuff from the late 80s was that was kind of more poppy rock for me.
Yeah.
Stuff he did with Sheena Easton and that kind of era. But I tell you, my favorite album, apart from Diamonds and Pearls, is the Gold album with Sexy MF, and that album for me, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
The production, you know, in between each track, it's like an operator on a computer, and she's tapping in what sense you want, what century, whether it's love or hate or compassion or, you know, death, and he's got a track for each one. You know, it's just perfect.
I love the way that he would make a finale on an album, and I think the album you're talking about, the finale was The Sacrifice of Victor, and that was such a great big song, like just a big finish. You know, a big theatrical finish, and man, he sure would give it to you. And on that record in particular, on that album in particular, you know, there's such composition. Do you have eras in your creativity that are that distinct where you can go, here's this movement and here's this movement, and now I'm into this new era of, you know, I feel like a new Matt Hoy is dawning, and here's a whole new thing? Or do you go through that with every, you know, with every iteration of your recording process?
I think what it is, it's a very subconscious thing, writing music. And I'm sure even Prince, I mean, I would never class myself even in nowhere near in that kind of category, but you kind of have an idea of what you want to do, but it's involuntary in a sense. It just comes out. And my first album with Happy on and all that kind of stuff, I kind of had a list of things I wanted to cover that I wanted to touch on for a number of years, which was especially Happy, which for me was writing a song that covered a whole realm of different subjects, from mental health awareness to people that are veterans, you know, soldiers, that are people who are part of the LGBT community, you know, trying to speak out, that, you know, give a voice, and they're stuck at home and they're scared to say anything. People with depression, anything that was, I wanted to write a song that kind of encompassed the whole of that without segregating one individual subject. I wanted to write a song about my partner. I wanted to write a song about my mother, which I did. So this new album for me, I've kind of got that out my system now. So now it's me just writing songs that I'm kind of enjoying writing. It's like I'm writing kind of R&B sexy songs with the reggae twinge to it, that I've got a Diana Ross, Donny Hathaway stylistics vibe. And then I've got stuff that's kind of represents kind of 60s, 70s Bronx soul with a Bob Marley twist stuck in the middle. You know, all these little things I'm kind of messing about with. And James, who's written and produced the album with me, he's so into that kind of thing as well. And I only have to say one thing to him and he knows exactly where I'm coming from, and it's there, you know. Yeah. So I really enjoyed doing this album.
This is cool, the way you talk about groups of influences, because when you talk about an influence and a sound that you know that you really are attaching to, it takes on a whole different form when you mix in another sound and you allow both influences to reach you.
Yeah, for real. And the thing is, you can have the whole thing in your mind when you go in there, that this is what we're going to do. And as soon as you've done it, it always takes you to another level where you go, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. So it's kind of three different areas, you know.
That's cool.
I wanted to jump in and say this just because I think it would be fun. My Prince era and song, I would like an Erotic City, you know, Prince and Sheila E. satin pajama kind of sexy Christmas song, because I think that's what Prince would do.
You see, the whole time I've been talking about my album, Pete's just been sat there thinking of Sheila E.
I've been waiting my turn. But I do want to get back to your album though, because you know, and I like to bring up Paul Weller whenever we can because we just don't get him over here. But when he fell in love with DC Lee, he's like, "Yeah, I'm the mod father. Yeah, I write this, you know, whatever you want to call what they did earlier in his career and everything." He's like, "But I'm in love right now. I don't want to dance. I want to be in love, and I just want to write these love songs." And it defined an entire era of his music. Do you hold like that? Like, can you be so in love or so angry or so whatever emotion that you can just? Do you think you could write music for 5-6 years on that topic?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the thing with a lot of writers, they kind of have to be in a certain place or a certain time or gone through something to write certain topics of something. I kind of write to order. So that album's done. And in between writing the next one, I won't write anything. You know what I mean? So but once we decide, right, should we do the new album? That's when I'll kind of go and get, what are we gonna write about? And then I'll write the songs for the album, and then that's it. I don't tinker about all the time writing different stuff, going, I feel in a lovely mood, I'm going to write a love song. I'm feeling a bit pissed today, I'm going to write a pissed off song. You know, I just don't do that. I'm not that kind of writer.
And do you think you'll
really
include,
interesting? Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think you'll include a cover as a norm for you? I mean, we've kind of gotten away from that, and you're so good at singing all these different songs in different ways. I can see you doing that.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. No, I think with the covers, the reason I do covers on my album is because I like to do a cover of the people that have influenced me to begin with. And that's the only kind of covers that I would do. So the three I've chosen for this album are from people that I've either met or have greatly influenced me into being a singer, basically, that I used to listen to years back in the day. So, and there's some great ones on this. There's 3 on this album now again. But yeah, they're a bit left field that you wouldn't expect. But,
good.
You know, from listening to the first album, you won't expect them. So
nice. Did you say when you expect a new album out, or are you even able to say yet?
Say that again, sorry, buddy.
When do you expect a new album out, or can you even say?
Well, we've kind of done most of the music. I just need to do some extra production stuff on the music, and I've started putting guide vocals down. Demoing the vocals. I like to do everything before I finish. I always like to finish the recording with my vocal, and I like to have everything done just so I can go in and finish it off. But we're doing it a different way this year, and we've got I've still got Andreas, my manager, but I've got a new part of the management team, Aaron, who is actually from the US, and he's just brought a whole new different flavor in. So we're going to be working with some artists from the US as well on this new album, and it's just give it a whole new flavor again. So it's I'm really excited about this new album. Really, really excited. It's the first time I've ever listened to my own music and gone, fuck yeah. You know,
nice.
You listen to your own stuff and go, yeah, it's good. I know people are going to love it, but it's the first time I've listened to my music and gone, fuck yeah, this is cool. You know, so that's where we are with it.
I want to get right back to that, but I first want to address Todd's comment. They used to drop LPs at Christmas. Yes, absolutely. That's probably why there are certain attachments, because I got things for Christmas. Like we would get records for Christmas sometimes, right? And you, for some reason, get whatever it is. It might even be almost a year old by the time you get it for Christmas, but you still can associate it with Christmas because you listen to it. And then Another Lonely Christmas was the Prince song that he dropped. But in 1984, Prince was busy dropping Purple Rain and all the stuff that was around Purple Rain. So that kind of got buried.
What
was that, Matt?
I was only 10 in 1984. So,
well, John was 14 and he had a purple shirt, purple shoes, purple socks, not because of Donny Osmond, purple hair.
That's not entirely true, but thematically true.
Yeah, he was living the glamorous life.
I had this white shirt.
The purple dream.
It was like a choir shirt, and it was flowing. It was like Jerry Seinfeld's pirate shirt. That that was my pirate shirt. And then I wore it to watch Purple Rain, and I said, "Oh yeah, he's got ruffles. I got ruffles. I'm cool." And then I made out with the girl watching Purple Rain, and oh, that was glorious. That was the first time that ever happened in the movie theater.
Yeah, because Purple Rain was quite heated for the time as well, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you know what? I the first time I watched Purple Rain was about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I mean, I'm a massive Prince fan. I've just never got around to watching Purple Rain.
My least favorite Prince album, by the way. What did you think of it? Because now you're watching it as a grown adult and it's aged weird.
I think,
and I was there in the moment. So.
Yeah, I think because it dated so much, it was awkward to kind of give it a review as if I would have watched it back in '84. You know?
Yeah.
I think not so much the storyline, but the way the production, everything was very '80s. So I can't really. I'm not going to make a criticism because it's not fair. But yeah, I mean, it's Prince. It's still cool, isn't it? Jesus.
Yeah, he did know something about being cool.
Yeah,
especially then.
When we were kids and Purple Rain was out too, and Erotic City came out, that was the first song that really, for us, for our era, had the word "fuck" in it, and it was about fucking. It was in your face, and you could tell the coolness of the DJ is if they cut that out during the dance at the high school. You remember this, John? Like it was a big deal. Like you're thinking it in your head, like, is he going to play it? Is he going to? He played it. Oh, this guy's cool. All right,
I think Madonna was the only other person that did that kind of erotic music at that point that kids were like, "Oh, this is a bit naughty. Should we be listening to this?"
Yeah.
Especially for young boys, you know what I mean? It was like the pin-up thing,
Yeah. Or I hope my mom doesn't walk in while I'm listening to this.
Why? What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Madonna. God, yeah, that was the one back in. Pamela Anderson. Wow. We're kind of straying off the subject a bit now, but
boy, have we. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I was listening to Prince that much in 1984. I was more Michael Jackson then, anyway.
Yeah, who can blame you?
Okay. Yeah, 84 was a good year for Michael Jackson too.
Absolutely.
You're pretty rangy with your influence. I mean, obviously you sing in a reggae band, but you obviously have that soul thing. What else? Mm-hmm. What else are you looking at trying to create? I mean, this album is largely in the can. You're past the point of introducing new songs, but what else is out there? Like, are you going to surprise us and say, I just can't get enough of Travis Tritt or something like that, or some kind of?
No, I can't. I really want to do. This is right. Okay, this is it. I really want to do a gospel album, but it's that daunting aspect of kind of venturing as a white Englishman that I'm completely immersed in R&B. It's my thing, and I would worship all like Luther and Anita Baker, all the big Black American R&B soul singers that there's just nothing better for me. But to kind of attempt to do a gospel album, just to let go and have that choir and have that feeling and just feel the music, I think there would be nothing better in the world than to do that. And that's why I've kind of tried to influence about 2 or 3 tracks with some gospel harmonies on the new album as well, just because I just love that feeling. It's just nothing better. When you stand in front of a gospel choir, it's like standing in front of a symphony orchestra. When you feel that, the voices behind you, it's magical,
Yep. Can you access that in England? How much of that exists? Because I mean, where I live, I can go visit that experience. In fact, when I was growing up, I was raised Catholic and I play the drums, and those two things didn't mix when I was a kid. So I remember when my friend Corey, who played in his church, said, "Bring your drums. I'm going to take you to church with me."
Yeah.
And I thought, I can bring my drums into your church, and sure enough, I could. And they liked them there, and and that experience was so welcoming, musically and spiritually and everything else for me. So I have an emotional attachment to gospel music as well as the just visceral attachment that you speak of. But how accessible was that to you, or is that to you?
It wasn't very. I mean, I'm not religious at all, really. And growing up, if I was going to church as a young white boy, is completely so far in the opposite direction as going to a black church, where It's like it seems to be if you go to a white church, you're just going to sit there and be bored for 2 hours. But if you go to a black
Bored
church,
and guilty if you ever
where
feel
the
that
fun's
kind of
at.
joy.
Exactly. Yeah, this is where this is the party time. This is praising. You know what I mean? They're enjoying themselves. It's just unbelievable. And I never had that until I started doing music and became friends with a lot of black gospel musicians and all that kind. And I never went to the church, but to listen to them play, it kind of gave me a level of musicianship as well. They're just phenomenal musicians as well, phenomenal singers and musicians. You know,
there's another gear, musically speaking, in a gospel church. There's
Yeah.
another gear.
Yeah.
How about
But let me ask you about
consider-
gospel too. I want to continue the gospel theme. How close can you get on gospel and not be, you know, too tropey and be respectful? I mean, unless you're like really a powerful man of faith, you know, you can get too close to the line and be like, you know, gospel is a tricky thing because of the religious element. So how do you do that as someone? And I don't know, maybe you're a really powerful man of faith. I don't know. But like, if you're a Baptist minister, you can say, I'm going to make a gospel album and everybody be like, absolutely, you know, but if you get outside of that cone.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. I think the difference between, I think what it is being a vocalist and a singer, once you kind of immerse yourself in the vocal, it's kind of a religious kind of experience anyway. Once you're putting your whole mind and body and soul into a vocal and a performance, that's kind of a religious act anyway. You're kind of immersing yourself into the emotion. And that's the only thing I could do really, is listen to the song and immerse myself in it that way. And who knows, somebody listening to it, because everybody listens to stuff in different ways. They all hear different things. So, you know, I can only do my best with it and then let other people make the judgment, you know.
There's
that's you being genuine with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have
that's the only thing you can do, you know.
As a kid, my folks would go do square dancing at our church. And sometimes I would get roped into going and sitting there and shutting up. But, you know, I got to see this thing. And then my dad's got a master's in divinity. So we went to a lot of church, you know, all kinds of them, Mormons to whatever.
And his undergrad degree is in music, right?
It is. Yeah.
Music and divinity.
Yeah, music and divinity. That's his thing. And so, you know, I got exposed to a lot of these things. And when you go to a black church, you know, you bring a lunch, you expect it. But as a kid, it was hard to understand. But as an adult, you understand it. Like, they're full in to like praising God. If your hands aren't in the air, you know, like, they're going to help you. They're going to get you there. Like, they want to bring everybody along. So in effect, it was sort of like a square dance as well, where like, there's you're the leader of this band, and your job is to enrapture everybody, you know, and have them feel God. And so it's a performance, but then there's the other element where you're like, I hate to say proselytizing, but you're creating that spirit in the room that can, I've seen it paralyze people. I've seen people speak in tongues. It's that powerful. Is that something that you would want to, not that you want to do that, but do you think about that? And like, how do I create this gospel well of soul that comes out from that kind of music?
I think, of course you do. I mean, but I think you talking about that kind of happens in an out of church scenario as well. When you're talking about concerts and shows, I mean, we go back to Michael Jackson or anybody of that level. When you watch the first few rows of a concert, when that artist walks onto the stage and they all start collapsing and crying, it's the same kind of religious experience, you know what I mean? But of course you do. I mean, that's the plan for any singer or any performer, is to make or give that kind of performance where people start, you know, passing out and, you know, in a good way. But not
right.
Yeah, I love taking them to other places. Hey, man, I love John's comment that the gospel church is where he got his musical start. I think that's true for a lot of musicians, because it's the place now, especially now that there's a lot less music education in schools. It's the place where you can go and learn to play and keep playing. Yeah. And it sort of has a built-in reason for a lot of people to keep playing. So
I think the nice thing about gospel as well is you can't really make a mistake. It's kind of accepted in a way that it's not about kind of defining lines. It's about expanding everything and stretching and pushing. And if you do something that's different to what normally goes, that's kind of accepted and kind of, you know, we want more of that. Come on, let's do that. Yeah. So I love it. I just love the whole thing about gospel, and I love that kind of scene. It's just, they're wonderful people.
churches are synagogues, mosques, all of it. They're powerful cultural wells. When I lived in Florida, the Catholic Church was several Catholic churches, right? Mm-hmm. So it was the white people Catholic Church where everything was sad and dirgy. I'm talking Stations of the Cross, Easter time. We're like, yes, of course, Jesus died. We're all very sad about this. We have a lot of guilt. Literally, all you got to do is stay 10 minutes for the next service, and the same bass that's like, doom, doom, really somber. I heard the guy go, same guy, and then it was a totally different Brazilian vibe. Completely different, Same guy, same instrument, same church, different audience, and
drop the rhythm.
Yeah, and then you get the Spanish audience, all of the I would hate to say Mexican because it's Florida, so you're talking everybody. But again, completely different vibe and not afraid of drums. And even though it's Catholic, a whole lot, guilt for sure, but glorious guilt,
the one thing I will say about, kind of keeping it with the gospel, but the one glorious and luxurious thing about being part of UB40 is because they're so singing with them is they're so global. There isn't really a country in the world that somebody doesn't know UB40 either. Like we've sang in Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands and right out in the south. These places you would never. I'd never even heard of Papua New Guinea before we actually gigged there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But by doing these shows, the privilege of, for 10 years, standing behind Ali Campbell, in a sense, for me, has been better because I get to experience more of the show than he does because he's the front man and he's performing and all eyes are on him. So I can kind of do my thing, but enjoy the show as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Let him do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. And also by doing that, we go to so many different countries and you feel and witness and involve yourself in so many different cultures of music and experience the fact that it's not all about charts and it's not all about getting to number one and it's not all about, what money you earn. It literally is. It's about the music and feeling the music. That's what I've loved about the last 10 years of being with UB40 because it's kind of taken the pressure off me as a musician to go, well, this doesn't have to be the newest beat that comes out of the new Yamaha keyboard or the newest sample, or it doesn't have to fit in with what's number one in the US or in the UK. It's just about music and doing what you love and producing something that's personal to you.
It is so refreshing to hear that can, that there's a place where an artist like you can have that be your focus. That's just terrific. That's what we hope for.
I think it has to be because otherwise music's just going to turn into like an office job. It's going to turn into files and numbers and, there's music's about. I was talking to Aaron the other day, my new manager, about music the other day, and I was watching Luther Vandross in concert back in the 90s at the Royal Albert Hall.
Oh yeah,
the whole show. From the band, the way they sounded, and you just felt it in your chest and in your heart, and you just the hairs on the back of your neck. You don't get that anymore from watching live shows. It's too computerized in a sense and formatted, and it doesn't kind of let itself go, and the crowd doesn't get involved with it. It's just regimented. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing Velvet Revolver live in Vegas, and I was really excited. I like everything about that band. I like everybody in it and all that kind of thing. And I couldn't have been more bored to tears because it was just a formula, Like this is when Slash runs across the stage to the left, and then Scott's going to go over and stand in front of him, and I'm like, oh God, please do something original. The music is great, but it wasn't enough, Like I can listen to that. Like I didn't come here to hear the music. I came here to see you guys perform,
Yeah.
And even
here's where I put my foot on the monitor.
Yeah, no, literally, I was about to say Scott Weiland.
Yeah,
he's going to go sing, I don't know, sex type thing or something like that. He goes into the crowd, puts his leg up on an armrest of a lady, and then grinds his pelvis at her. Like we've all seen this, Scott, for 20 years. Like, you please do something different, And not that they're not a great band, but I'm desperate for that originality,
Yeah, and I also think in you go to a live show and the performance is exactly like the record. For me, that kind of, I get lost on that as well, because I just think, well, if I just wanted to listen to the record as it sounds, I'd just stay at home and put the CD on.
Yeah.
The live performance, I want to hear something that's different to the record. I want to hear maybe an extended version or a drop, or go into something else and bring it back, or a different vocal style, or different, I don't know, different instruments or different arrangement of the track. You know, that's what I want to hear, because I'm paying money to go and see it live, and I want it to be different, you know.
Yeah. I love those live experiences where even if it's just a little nugget of, you know, of something. I remember there was a live recording of Johnny Gill, and I think it was him doing some. I can't remember what song he was doing. My. He was singing My. And in the middle of that, they just stopped the groove and then swung it hard.
I know.
And went into Let's Get It On, and it was like,
yeah.
God,
I've actually got it on
it just
Spotify.
melts you.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Say it again, Matt.
I've actually got that version on Spotify on my listings, my track listings. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
If you get his album My on Spotify, there's loads of live versions of the tracks, and that's on there.
Okay. You know,
90s
also,
R&B.
Another thing to love about Prince is all the recordings now, all the board recordings that are surfacing, because there were so many underground recordings from after parties and stuff like that are now, you know, kind of coming to the surface and being traded around. And, you know, I would always want to allow a man to make a living, but now that he's not around, it sure is nice to hear all those board recordings, because man, there were so many magical live moments.
Well, there was that one album he did when he finished with Warner Brothers. I think it was towards the end of the 90s, and it was Chaos and Disorder. And that was just an album he put together to kind of fulfill his contracts and get the hell out of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But even that, it was full of tracks.
There's some great stuff on that.
Throwing away, you know, and they were all phenomenal tracks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All phenomenal tracks. Yeah. So, you know, well, I'm really happy to hear that you're able to focus on, you know, your creative processes. There are a lot of people who have, I guess, burdens placed on their music where they have to think about the commerce, and it doesn't seem like you're distracted by that. So, man, it's great to hear, and it's wonderful to see the creativity that's coming out of you because of that circumstance.
I think it's a situation where, because obviously I've felt to a little bit of the mental health in depression over the years, you know what I mean? But I think it's the way you approach things, and it's always what I kind of say to people on my Facebook page, is that talking is the biggest kind of help and aid you can give. Even if you're not giving advice, sometimes people just want to talk and just want somebody to listen to. So yeah, I've kind of gone through stages of going down a little bit, coming back up again, going back down. But the one thing that stayed constant is the fact that being a creative person, you can always kind of, even if you don't feel like doing it, if you just sit there and stare at the laptop, even, something in the end starts to trickle out like a tap. And then that kind of lifts you up once the tap starts running. So I've just concentrated on that, really. And that's what's kind of got me through this period.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, just for our listeners, listen, you've been hearing Matt Hoy talk about everything under the sun, and we kind of jumped around on a variety of topics, but the main thing that we want everybody to do is listen to your music, buy your records, see you when you come to town, when that becomes a thing again. And hopefully everybody will get a lot of enjoyment this Christmas, not just from Christmas songs, but from Matt's existing album. And your new one comes out when?
No date set yet.
Okay.
I'm looking to release a single within the next couple of months, hopefully. So maybe one in time for Christmas. And basically, it's just going to reflect about what's happening at the minute, you know. Yeah, we're talking about doing that. So, but yeah, you'll be the first to know, guys, anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll come back and talk to it once you've been through it. By the way, we got to shout out Wes because he introduced us. He's watching, and I mean,
We always
Yeah, I
gotta
was
shout
thinking
out
the other day
Wes,
about
man.
Wes. I can't wait for him to come out, and because he loves Mexican food, I've got a place I want to take him to. You know, it's just I just love Wes, man. I just love him.
Yeah,
Well,
he's lovable, dude.
that's the thing with working with Wes. It's because you get the enjoyment of writing and recording your album and putting all these different production values, but then you forget about the fact that it's got to go on to Wes then, and he's just going to work his magic on it and do another load of stuff to it that's going to make his end incredible. So he really is a little genius stuck there in Shepherd's Bush in London, you know.
Yes.
Again, let him do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Oh man, everybody should definitely
our
listen.
standing excuse to see Wes every January went away too, because we always would get together at the NAMM show, and there isn't going to be a NAMM show, so we're going to miss you, Wes. But
it's just not. It's going to be virtual.
Yeah, it'll be virtual.
Yeah.
So
just looking forward to better times, though, boys. Yeah.
Yep. Everybody should listen to Touch on Spotify. Give Matt some spins. I promise you will love it. The album is fantastic.
You can buy it on iTunes too.
I'm hoping that that we can get you to do a duet album, get Callie Minogue in the studio with you, and hell, get DC Lee.
Wouldn't that be nice? Actually, you say that. I was actually going to do something with DC Lee. Because Lee John of Imagination, he's done a wonderful documentary called Flashback, and it's all about British black R&B artists, soul artists over the years. And obviously he featured DC Lee in one of the interviews, and I was meeting up with him to go for lunch, and she was there just finishing off with the interview, and I actually met her, and we decided we might do something, but that was a few years ago. Nothing ever happened, but yeah, weird.
Well, you definitely should pursue it. I'm going to reach out and see if I can get her on the show, because
and then we'll lean on her and go, hey, when are you going to do a song with Matt Hoy?
I was a bit starstruck, to be fair, because I was a fan of Wham, you see, and she was one of the original Pepsi and Shirley's.
Yeah, she's got legit chops. I mean, she sings like Anita Baker, and
then she went into the Star Council, didn't she, with Paul Weller?
Yep. Yeah, when they got married, and she just took the love songs and all that. It was wonderful. Her voice is incredible.
Their daughter is out releasing music now as well, isn't she?
I didn't know that. Is she? Yeah.
Yeah. She's just like DC was when she was young as well. She looks very similar.
Wow. So. Yeah, and she's got a good musical pedigree,
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
Always a pleasure. I look forward to the next one, guys.